Hello, good morning. I want to chat today about what it means to libidinally disinvest from the ideological matrix. Something that I was exploring in Wake all this week with Church of the Contradiction. Just came out of Wake. I think it was the best one we've had. Incredible bunch of people from all over the world. Those talks have been recorded, some of them, and I'll be giving them to my patrons. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm going to be developing Wake next year and hopefully increasing it, building on the success of what we did this year. So if you were there, it was great to hang out. Definitely very profound experience for me. I had a really good time, and now I'm just recovering slowly. So yeah, one of the things we talked about in Wake was this idea of disinvestment from the kind of contemporary ideology. And I just thought I'd do a little reflection on that, using something that Zizek said, an example that he used many years ago that has a lot of richness and depth. And it was very simple. He said, traditionally, if you were a child and you were told that you had to visit your grandmother and you didn't want to, your parents would say, listen, get your coat on, get in the car, you're seeing grandma. And then you go to today and you have like a liberated parent, and they will say you have to go and see your grandmother, and the child says, I don't want to. And then the parents will say, well, you really do want to. Like, you want to make her happy. This is something that is in your best interest. And, you'll really enjoy seeing her, putting a smile on her face. And, you want to do the right thing, don't you? Right? And Zizek says, this is even worse. Because in the first example, the child can at least have a space within them where they can protest, where they can go, I don't want to do this, but I have to do it. But when I'm old enough, I can do something else, right? And of course, the liberal parent, it's mostly fake. As in, if the child goes, yeah, no, I still prefer not to do it, then they revert to strategy A and say, well, then get your coat on, get in the car because you're going, right? Now, what is Zizek meaning by this point? Basically, he says that in today's society, not only do you have to work at a certain job and sacrifice, but you have to like it, right? So you can think of a time when you had a job and you did it 9 to 5 and you clocked off at 5 and you didn't think about it until the next day. You did the work, but you didn't like it. You didn't enjoy it. And there's a lot in working class communities, that's a lot of what work is like. You go, you clock in, you clock out, and you're not libidinally invested in it. There's a place for a potential protest that goes, yeah, I have to do this job because I have to pay my rent, right? I have to be able to purchase things, but I'm not so invested in it that if something better came along, I would be able to do it. Whereas for many people today, not only do you have to do your job, but you have to go on the corporate retreat. You have to wear their merch. You have to enjoy it. You have to kind of get into the ideology. So not only do you have to do the work, but you have to be libidinally invested in it. And it's same with hypochondria. If you're a hypochondriac, you're libidinally invested in having cancer, for example. It's not just that you happen to have cancer. If you're a hypochondriac who thinks you've got cancer and you're always thinking about it and you're always testing, that idea is invested. There's something about a generalized anxiety that you've put into an illness. So your generalized anxiety over something else is displaced onto this belief that you have cancer. And then if you happen to then find out that you have cancer, then you're able to really fool yourself. You go, oh, that anxiety I have is related to this. And unconsciously, you're kind of invested in having it. Although you might fight against it, there's something in you that it gets relief precisely out of the cancer itself. Whereas if you're not libidinally invested in having the cancer, you're more likely to do things that will fix it, right? You still might die of it, you still might not be able to do anything, but you're not invested in it so you can fight it. It's the same thing about having a political enemy. If you get enjoyment out of your enemy, like in the signs that said love trumps hate, where you go, well, those signs told the truth that people love Trump's hate, right? They get something out of it. If Trump is the enemy for you, but you're getting something out of having the enemy, your generalized anxiety about wider social and environmental and material circumstances are all caught into this one location. You say, if we got rid of that, then everything would be better. Then that investment means that in some way you do want to get rid of the thing that you want to get rid of. So Zizek's point is that in a contemporary situation where not only are you having to sacrifice profoundly for somebody else and do something that is maybe profoundly painful and difficult, not only are you having to do that, you also have to like it. It colonizes your internal world. You begin to gaslight yourself, right? You start to go, I do enjoy this. I do want this. Something that Helen's talked about is how today, like having a job is something good, because most people, like in the academic world, for example, you can't even get a job. So you're actively, happy if you get a job that is not well paid, where it's taking all of your energy, where you're sacrificing for someone else, not for your own community and all of that. You also hypothetically now you're libidinally invested and are grateful for this, really grateful for this oppression, right? Now that doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. Absolutely, you have to often do jobs you do want. But if you don't have a space of internal protest, then it's more difficult to find ways out, to find ways to subvert that, and maybe find a way of sacrificing that is beneficial to a project that you believe in, right? So what this means is, and what the work of parotheology is about, is the liturgy is about helping you unplug your libidinal investment, your energy that you give. Going like, yes, we live in a situation where we often have to do things we don't want to do, very painful and difficult things. But how do we avoid gaslighting ourselves into going, we enjoy this, we want this? What was it? Who was the guy who wrote Amusing Ourselves to Death, but talked about Neil Postman, I think, where we kind of amuse ourselves to death, which is a way of saying, in a way, that we libidinally invest in our own demise. And how can we start to libidinally invest in finding ways out of that? So that was definitely one of the things that I was exploring, and how I used the example, a sexual example, because Zizek talks about how we live in a increasingly perverse society, and what he means by a perverse society is a society in which we're prohibited from enjoyment, and we start to then enjoy the prohibition, right? So in perversion, you might have been excluded from enjoyment as a child, but then that exclusion becomes enjoyable. So in cuckolding, you have a situation where a person enjoys being excluded from the sexual act, but also the two people who are in the sexual act, they enjoy it because there's someone who's excluded. And you can see that within contemporary society, all ideology functions like this, but you have people who can enjoy what they have because there's someone excluded, right? It's the excluded other that makes you enjoy what you have. And then there's also this strange thing where people can start to enjoy being excluded, and then that, you start to take on that identity, which is self-destructive. But because you're libidinally invested in your own exclusion, you're less likely to be able to change things. So that's kind of what begins to happen. That's what's in this analogy of the child who is said, you really want to see grandma. It's a colonizing of your inner self. And this is why, Zizek talks about the commandment that says you shall have no other God before you is a great commandment, because it's saying, you should have no other God in front of me. Of course you can have gods behind my back. Of course you can protest and do your own thing. Just don't do it in front of me, right? It's like the parent who says you shouldn't drink and smoke, But they're going like, yeah, but of course behind our backs you can. The authority allows you to have an exception to the authority, right? That's what the parent does. They make rules, but you're allowed to transgress the rules, find a place where you can differentiate from the authority, undermine the authority. The parents would be more unhappy if they find out that you were drinking behind their back, right? That they're secretly kind of glad that you can do that. But in a society where you can't have any internal protest, no fortress of solitude where you're able to begin to construct resistance, then we're alienated from our own alienation. And this is key. So we have alienation, but you're alienated from your own alienation because you pretend it's not real, you pretend it's contingent, you pretend it's because of this other person. The alienation is hidden in the fact that we can watch any TV program we want, we can order food from any place in the world on an app, right? Chinese, Indian food, Mexican food, all of this stuff we can do. We become alienated from our alienation, and it means that we are unable to, create a site of resistance. All right, well, there's just some thoughts, some things from Wake. I really appreciate your support on Patreon. I hope that I can continue to give you content that encourages you to stay here as we continue to develop a type of communion, a type of social bond around doubt, unknowing, and ambiguity. And I'm wanting to, provide more for you, but mostly provide a place for you to encounter people, make friends. And but I'll also maybe do a book study on my new book as well in the near future. So thank you for your support. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.